Karibu sana. Welcome viewers. This is Politics Today. Hapa tunachapa siasa. By the way, you can feel free to chapa siasa with us on 0111980384. 0111980384. We are with Wanjang Eve in the SLI, Sign Language Interpretation. We have a guest for you. I call him Zae. Hi. Karibu. Yes.
Asante sana. Asante sana.
Don't confuse him for a Gen Z. Dan Paul Andenga. My name is Jonas Simba. Just in case you don't know my name, tunachapa siasa na every week hapa. Jonas Simba. Na tuko na Dan Paul Andenga. Did I say that correct?
You did say very correct.
Okay.
Umepata kabisa.
Dan Paul Andenga from Uraia Trust.
Ndio.
Hebu tuambie wewe ni nani? In this show we normally ask mtu kwanza, who do you think you are? Who are you and who do you think you are?
Hiyo swali ni nzuri sana.
Yes.
Kwa sababu Jesus asked his apostles.
Right.
At some point they say in the Bible. Kamuuliza kwamba ninyi mnasema mimi ni nani? Kwa sababu wale wanasema mimi ni Messiah. Wale wengine wanasema mimi ni Messiah. They look at me, they say I'm a rabbi. Mimi ni teacher. But what do you say I am? Na kila mmoja alikuwa na jibu different. So for me, when people look at me, they call me mwalimu.
Mwalimu.
Yes. They call me mwalimu kwa sababu nawafundisha. Katiba 2010 ya Kenya. Hiyo ndio kazi mimi nimekuwa nikifanya miongo miwili, 2 decades. Unaona? So wengi wataniita mwalimu. Wengine wataniita mwanakwaya. Kwa sababu napenda kufundisha tu nyimbo tu na kuiba tu, so wataniita mwanakwaya. Wengine wataniita wakala wa sheria, paralegal, kwa sababu mimi kwa sababu nafundisha what do you say, katiba, pia nawasaidia watu ku access justice. So that is a concoction of almost everything, but my background is sociology. Yeah, and then I had an inclination on peace building. And because of that, a lot of the things that I do in the community are basically mediation, arbitration, and access to justice, basically, and information.
Right.
Yes.
And you are with Uraia Trust.
Nashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu. Kama mwalimu.
How did you end up there?
That's a good question. Right. So initially Uraia was a consortium of a couple of organizations, mainly the NCCK,
right,
the NAMLEFs, and the Catholic, what do you call them? The bishops, you know, when the bishops come up together.
Yeah, we normally call them KCC.
Yeah, the KCC,
Catholic
Conference of Bishops. You are.
Yeah.
So it is at that point I was employed by the Catholic Church in charge of Justice and Peace Commission, the CJPC as it were. Now it is CJPD. So Uraia then decided
Catholic Justice
and Peace Commission.
CJPC.
Then as a commission.
Right.
But now it has changed its name to Catholic Justice and Peace Department.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So, and basically the Catholic Justice and Peace Commission, as it were, its mandate was to bring about cohesion. The wing of the church that speaks about peace and development, basically.
Okay.
So, and so when Uraia was beginning up, they called out a memo and they asked their member groups, including our group, the KCCB,
right,
to second their membership.
So CJPD is under KCCB? Precisely. Okay.
Yeah, CJPC is under KCCB even until today. As a program, basically, that I have said, whose mandate is to bring about cohesion.
Right.
Peace building and cohesion in the community, but of course using the structures of the church. The Catholic Church has a very elaborate structure, pastoral structure. So using that structure, the CJPC's mandate is basically to bring about cohesion and development.
Okay.
So that's how I got seconded by the church into Raia.
Are you a Catholic brother?
Yes, I'm a Catholic.
Brother.
Uh,
I mean, are you in the, you know, I'm not Catholic. I know my sign language interpreter is Catholic.
Okay.
But I'm not Catholic.
My background.
Are you in the priesthood?
My background training was in the seminary. Yes.
So you're in the priesthood?
No, I'm laity.
Okay.
So what happens in the seminary is you are given an opportunity to celibate or otherwise. Those who make up their mind to celibate become priests. Those who don't remain as laity as I am.
Okay.
So I am laity. I have a family.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. I've never spoken to you about these things. You always struck me like some kind of priest.
So they
something.
tell me, I don't know why.
You know, we call you Mzai.
Right.
Yeah, and I've never quite
understood.
I've never quite understood. You have that aspect of you. It comes out naturally.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, you are the right person to tell us what is the status of the Pope. Where is the Pope?
Well, the Pope is fine.
Is he still in hospital?
Yeah, but he's doing fairly well.
Okay.
Yeah, he's doing fairly well.
Okay.
For the Catholics, what we believe in is there is a reporting mechanism. So if you wanted to know the status of the papacy today, would have to get that head-on from the ordinariate of the diocese. And the ordinariate or the ordinary or the bishop of this diocese today is Bishop Agnolo. So we have to wait for his directives for us to know exactly the position of the church as the status of the Pope. But from where I sit, he's fairly fine.
Where is Cardinal Njue?
Cardinal Njue is around, he's emeritus.
Right.
He's emeritus, he was my boss for 5 years.
Right.
I work in his office. He's a retired, but not tired bishop.
Okay.
In the Catholic Church, we have people who retire in the ministry, but are not tired. Like I have retired from the leadership of the Catholic Men Association, but I'm not tired in leadership. So my reference point or my title is emeritus.
Certainly, the Catholic Church is doing a very good job in the society.
Yes, we thank God.
NHIF, a lot of hospital issues going on. Do you have a word, an opinion about NHIF and SHF? Of course, I'll come back to Raia, but now that I've noticed you're also in Catholic. Yeah. Mission hospitals not paid.
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
In fact, before I came here, I was listening to C.S. Mbadi.
Right.
When we had some discussion earlier this morning. And he says that the government has pending bills.
Right.
That you are aware.
Yes, yes.
Both governments, national and county, have pending bills up to round about 655 billion.
Actually, we had Dr. Juliet Kimemia from Kiambu last week here, and she told us it's actually 700 billion, so it's not far from what you're quoting.
Yeah, 655. That's I'm using the data given this morning.
Okay.
By the CS.
Right.
Treasury. That's supposed to be the CS for the country, isn't it?
Yes.
The national government, yeah?
Right.
So let's pick it out from there. But he says, from on-source revenue within his plans, he looks at making payment for up to 205 billion in this fiscal year.
Okay.
in this fiscal year, what would that mean? It would mean 2025, 2026 fiscal year.
Right.
Now, if that happens, ordinarily would still have a deficit of pending bills of another 400 plus, isn't it?
Right.
Billion.
Hopefully, hoping that it doesn't continue accruing.
Now, so the question is, does government stop borrowing because they are making every effort in replenishing and paying pending bills? Does government stop borrowing? The reply is no. The government must borrow.
Right.
He says, how does government stop borrowing? So the question is, every time you're talking about budgeting, you must have a plan to spend. What has been happening, and he has realized as years for Treasury, is there have been unrealistic targets. Every time, Jonah, you're making a budget, you always make proposals. You say, today I want to spend this much.
Right.
For me to spend this much, I need to get this much before I can spend it.
Right.
Now, getting that which you must spend before spending it is what we call on-source revenue, isn't it? I have to raise funds, which funds I will use to spend. Ideally, those targets, in the past, he says, the CS, that they have been unrealistic targets. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have unrealistic target. And because you have unrealistic targets, you do not meet the targets. So when you compare, in the budget estimates, when you compare projected targets versus actual targets, there's always a deficit.
Yeah.
Now, because there's a deficit, that deficit, you must look for a way to make sure you mitigate the deficit. Now, mitigating that deficit is the borrowing.
Okay.
That is the borrowing. Now, he says, so how does he want to go about it? You mentioned about the sheep and the shares. He says there has to be taxation. Parliament or the government is putting into force ways in which they can, tax, get cash from us and you and everybody. If that cash is paid through SHIF, for example, through road levy, for example, if the taxation is done holistically, then there's going to be no deficit. But the nature of Kenyan has been kukata. Now, because unakata, chances are that definitely there could be a deficit going forward. So his call to action this morning has been, governments need to have realistic budgets, realistic targets. For example, from here by cab to Nairobi is how much? If I were to use Bolt from here to Nairobi, for example, how would you say 700, isn't it?
Right.
So that's a realistic. So if I were to make a target for spending for tomorrow's cab, I use 700. You understand?
Right.
So that means I must struggle to make sure by tomorrow I have the 700 which I must use tomorrow.
Right.
To pay for my cab here. But now, what has been happening, he says, in the past, those targets have been unrealistic. So you need medicine. That medicine is going to be paid for. You need contractors who are doing development projects, Those development need to be paid for. But you don't have money. So the chances of borrowing goes up. And every cent that has been borrowed accrues interest. So with those interests in mind, we find ourselves where we are. His call to action this morning was, both governments county and national, to make realistic targets against which they can work backward their budgets.
Right.
Yes. So of course, in our facilities, we can all sit and wait that which will be paid.
Right.
Yeah, it is not interesting at all.
Okay.
There's no medicine, there's nowhere I mean, I was just checking through the MTR stalwart in investigation.
Right.
There is this hospital that they have gone on strike. You know, they say they have not been paid, even in Kisii.
More teaching and referral.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're on strike this today, even in Kisii. So, for our institution, wouldn't wish anybody to go on strike. We really wish that whatever we have asked of government to provide,
I would be keen to know what's happening in Bungoma also, because Bungoma also had a strike.
They did, huh?
Yeah, several weeks ago. I don't know whether that strike is ongoing or it stopped. Yeah. Now, still on Catholic, before we come to Raya, yeah, we are still on that. I was part of a meeting by your people from your denomination. If I'm not wrong, the name was Jesuits. You know such a name?
I do.
Yeah. And they were talking about illicit tax flows. This was several years ago. It was before COVID, interestingly. It looks like the other day. And we had a very big meeting here in Nairobi. By the way, I was very glad to be welcomed. They told me that Catholic has a heart for persons with disabilities, because I was welcomed from the corner of Pwds. And I attended, and there was literally someone from every nation in the world. And they were focusing on one thing only. I don't know what your opinion would be on that. Illicit tax flows. They were talking about illicit money flowing across the world. What's your opinion on that? Are we here because of corruption?
First of all,
do you have the opinion that so much of our money is going outside? We have a shortfall of 10 billion. Is it 10 billion shortfall in circulation?
In circulation.
Yeah. It means someone is holding it somewhere.
Offshore, yeah.
Yes.
Now that we mentioned about the Jesuits,
yes,
the Catholic Church has congregations that work within dioceses.
right.
Very independent congregations. One of those congregations is the Jesuits fathers, or Jesuits family for that matter.
Right.
And the Jesuits family within the Catholic Church are known to be very astute, scholarly. They do a lot of research.
Yeah.
My background is Apostles of Jesus congregation. My background, my training is Apostles of Jesus.
Right.
So if in the meeting which you attended, the discussion was about illicit cash,
yes,
I'm sure there was a research to inform that.
There was, yeah.
But even without any research, you can bear witness, Jonah, today that there is barely no circulation of cash.
Right.
If you went into your pocket today and removed 1,000 and bought something without 1,000, you almost know you are done deal. There were days when there was plenty of money in circulation. So what is happening today, as I see it from the point of where I sit, is those who have cash don't want to spend.
Okay.
There's very little cash in circulation. Those who have cash have offshore bank accounts. So they would rather, in terms of, there is the fear of the unknown. There's a lot of instability in this country. Right. And therefore people who have good money have made a decision not to have their money in here because of insecurity. That is number one. What are the indicators that show you that a lot of money is not in circulation in this country? Jonah, you may know, like every other person knows, that a lot of factories have closed down.
Right.
A lot of industries are closing down. Good organizational companies that have been around for a bit of time are actually closing down. Why? Because the modus operandi is not conducive for business in this country. So why would you keep your money around? So in which case, if that happens, so what the only way to mediate that,
right,
is someone now beginning to even making, the Kirinyaga stuff.
right,
And that Kirinyaga stuff will end up into the circulation. So you have money that
by
has
Kirinyaga stuff you mean fake money.
Fake money.
Right.
And that would mean devaluation. So our cash cannot buy anymore. We are devalued. We don't have a price on our shilling at all. And it is appalling. It is appalling in my considered opinion.
Okay. Offshore accounts. I remember in that meeting, by this congregation from the Catholics, they were arguing that there is corruption. Many of the few who are in leaderships in this part of the world are holding money and taking it to Switzerland and wherever. And that is why they wanted that issue to be addressed, illicit tax flows. In your explanation, is there anything like an illicit flow of money out of this country?
Again, I will use an opinion. I'll give an opinion.
Right.
In my opinion,
right,
there is illicit flow of money outside this country. And I think I've already explained
yes,
under what circumstances that happens.
You've talked of good money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, illicit, you see, you remember what I mentioned about the Kirinyaga saga?
Yes.
That in itself is a currency that is illicit, isn't it?
Right, right. There may be a viewer who doesn't quite get that. I'm sure the SMSs are coming now. What is Kirinyaga saga?
So a while ago, we got to know about a place called Kirinyaga Road. Kirinyaga Road in the city capital of Nairobi.
Right.
Yeah, along Kirinyaga Road, there's so much that is happening along that street. There's a lot of printing.
Yeah. So people from Kirinyaga County should not start.
No. I said Kirinyaga Road in the capital city of Nairobi.
Okay.
Actually, I said Kirinyaga Road in the city capital of Nairobi. Okay. I had to be very clear. Okay. Kirinyaga Road. There's a lot of printing activities going on along Kirinyaga Road.
Okay.
In the city county of Nairobi. In there,
right,
such can happen. That is number one. Number two, I'm aware that we have Kenya is very generous, and Kenya being generous,
right.
We have a lot of visitors who come in and walk out. I am aware, and because they come in and walk out, it is possible that they can leverage on our being good,
right,
to do other things that may jeopardize our relationship.
Right.
And the currency is the first thing to be affected. If whatever business they're doing is not controlled by government, that is because of corruption. You understand?
Right.
The monster corruption, when walks into it, can make our currency devalue. Right? because anybody can do their illicit trade the way they know how. That, of course, will also lose. The exchequer will lose a lot of credibility and money. That's how I understand it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we've spoken so much about your Catholic background. So I want us to go for a break, and then when we come back, we were with you at the Nairobi County function. We were launching, what was that report called? Status report?
Yeah, the status
Status
the Nairobi City County
on civic education.
civic education,
civic
public
engagement.
participation, and civic engagement.
Yes. I want us to come back and talk about scaling up PWD engagement on these issues. Viewers, we are with Dan Paul Andenga from. See you after the break.